Hey guys, I'm David, also known as Taco. This is
Laura, or Paprika.
Yeah. And I wanted to start another little series that I'll do whenever I feel like it. I think we're just going to call it Spoilers. And it's whenever we want to talk about like a game or a movie, especially one with complicated storylines, like Bioshock Infinite, which is what we're going to talk about today. And I wanted to do these because even if I do a game review, which I'm planning on doing something kind of like a game review, you'll see. I don't want to spoil endings too much. So yeah, now we're going to talk about Bioshock. Overall, I loved it. I didn't love it as much as the first one, but part of that might be biased because I really liked the setting of the first one compared to the second one.
That's fair.
And I think the first one had the storyline ended on a definite note, like you definitely found out what happened, whereas this one, it's left up to interpretation at the moment, and then if they do anything with it, it could make this game completely terrible or not.
And in Bioshock Infinite, there was only one jump, really, with the noise guy.
Oh my god.
He screamed so loud at that. And
I yelled.
And I loved that part, anything involving with that, because it felt more like the original. It was, sneaking, avoid his gaze and stuff. I liked that.
Those, oh god, that was stressful.
But I understand why some people might prefer Bioshock Infinite if the whole, dark, jump setting isn't their thing, per se.
Well, you've tried to play the original Bioshock before, and it was too scary
Oh, yeah.
for you.
No, I can't do it.
Do you think you could play Infinite if you wanted to?
I can't because the rail stuff makes me really dizzy and nauseous. I'm just sensitive, so I had to look away anytime he was on the rail because I felt like I was going to throw up.
What are your other dislikes, then?
I understand and get where they're going with the racism. The setting and all that. I do agree with some people that in some ways it wasn't handled completely best. My issue is I feel like, okay, so baptized Booker is super racist. Unbaptized Booker should be super not racist. Instead, he was just kind of like, oh, hey, no, I don't care if you smoke, whatever, Oh, I'm indifferent to races, blah, 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 blah. There was a guy and he was smoking, and he was like, oh, please don't tell someone. And he was like, hey, that's okay, whatever, do your thing. That was by the carousel.
Right.
Yeah. And just, he was a lot more not really giving a crap either way about the racism and the whole thing. And I feel like if he's going to be such an extreme when he's baptized, I feel why not be the opposite extreme? And I feel like it would have justified the racism a little more, because a lot of people are like, this game didn't even need racism, da-da-da-da-da. And I feel like, well, at least if it's going to be racist, let's show people fighting back against it. And show people.
Well, that's what the Vox Populi was.
Yeah, but then they ended up becoming an enemy, too. And so it wasn't exactly, like, making it okay. It was, well, you're either racist or you're horrible.
Well, I can see your point-ish. I disagree. Because the impression of Booker that I get was that he had turned into something of a drunkard or something. He'd wasted a lot of his life away. You find that out a little bit towards the end. He was not in a good place, and this was like 1900-ish. I just don't think there'd be that many people that cared that much. I guess I see it as that wasn't the point of it. They were just... I do think that they kind of used it as for the plot, like, oh, let's add in super racism so that we can use this Vox Populi as another faction enemy.
Well, and that's what some people are complaining about, is that it was just for the plot, and they didn't even really handle it, and so
I could see that. I guess I still kind of disagree with you, but I could see that. I don't know how much of it is explained just throughout the normal plot, but some of the audio things, though I don't think they specifically mention Songbird, they talk about seeing things through the tears, like Fink, the inventor, seeing things through the tears, and then creating stuff with it. And they make it sound like they saw like Rapture through the tears, so they saw like Big Daddies and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I heard some people comparing the Big Daddies.
That's, I mean, he talks about seeing how they melded man with machine, and that's how he got his ideas. I'm assuming he created Songbird. I don't know what Songbird's made out of. I don't know anything else about
Songbird
it.
was such a big part of it, and then to not even know like what it was.
Yeah, it did kind of feel like they might have cut out like a section, like a level that was just you and the Songbird, basically.
It might be DLC.
There is supposed to be 3 DLC.
Then that could be...
Those could be missions put in there, and that might improve the game drastically. That might get rid of most of the criticism that I have as well.
How do you feel about that? Do you think they should have just kept it in the game, or do you think it's okay that they're doing it as DLC?
Well, I mean, the game was like 14 hours long, and I feel like it's a very solid 14 hours.
And the fact that it doesn't explain Songbird doesn't keep me from liking the game.
Right.
Like, it's not a huge crucial point. And I figure if they're doing a DLC, this gives them more time to work on that story.
Well, I mean, the game had already been delayed, and it doesn't seem like this is DLC that was, like, on the disc or anything, which is a issue that people have. Which, DLC is a whole nother thing to get into. I would love to see more of the world. Because really one of my complaints was I didn't feel as immersed into this city. Like, I was way more engaged into the story, and I thought the combat was way better. But the city was cool. It looked beautiful. I had fun walking around it, but I didn't feel like you got to explore and get immersed in it as much as Bioshock.
Bioshock, they had things like, the garden, and you see all that, or like, the crazy doctor, and, the stuff he's doing. It was, and this it was like, another gift shop.
There was like Comstock and Fink were like the only 2 people whose places you explored.
Or they're like, don't be a dimwit, be a, like, Dudley or
Duke,
something. Or
Duke and Dimwit.
And it was like, okay,
right, but that wasn't,
cool.
You didn't like go to their factory because they were made by Fink. I guess one of the issues was Fink created basically everything except for the Lutessas, which did the quantum physics stuff. And that's cool, that's fine, but is there anything else going on in the city? Is it pretty much just Comstock and Fink? Are they the only 2 doing anything?
Yeah, I guess.
Because they did talk about Fink has a brother who was a musician, and apparently he saw through the tears.
And that's how he got his songs.
Right.
He stole them, yeah.
But like in Rapture, you went to all kinds of places. I wrote down just a few off the top of my head. And of course, most of these are like the major characters. Andrew Ryan, you explore his whole place. Fontaine, I believe, he has like a house for the poor or something in Rapture, and you explore that.
That's a good point. There's still plenty of main characters, but they don't have their like own areas.
Right, like even the Lutessas, they just had a house.
Yeah, you don't really explore things with them, or with Daisy, there wasn't really much explored.
Yeah, I wrote down Fitzroy. The place you encounter her is the same place that you encounter Fink. But there was just some things that I wish had more, you saw more, or that you saw more of other people's areas. One of the first things before you get Murder of Crows, that the people that had a statue of John Wilkes Booth and like demonized Abraham Lincoln, I thought that was a really interesting thing, and I wish they had like fleshed that out more.
Yeah. I feel like Infinite it focused a lot more on the action aspect. Well, Bioshock Original was much more setting and environment.
I mean, there's plenty of stuff in Infinite.
Oh no, yeah.
But
I think they focused on different points.
But and also they focused a lot more on the storyline, because Bioshock 1, the storyline was pretty straightforward, and there was just a really good twist at the end. And something that I love about both these games is how much they kind of play on you being the player. Like in Bioshock 1, Would You Kindly thing, you just take that as, you're just doing things because it's a video game.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you realize, it was all part of the shtick. I don't know. Something in Infinite, it focused a lot on like constants and variables. Getting into more of the stuff you find out towards the end, this isn't supposedly the first time that the Lutessas have pulled a Booker into Columbia and had him run through. And there's always things that he always does, constants, and then there's variables, things that sometimes go differently. And that's why there's only like 4 choices you can make in the game. Which pendant you choose for Elizabeth to wear, whether or not you kill Slate.
And did those affect anything?
They don't affect anything. Like with Slate, if you let him live, you see him later, and he's in
The jail.
Fink's prison, I think. So you see kind of your consequences, but they don't matter.
No, they don't really affect you.
Mm-mm.
I prefer when games have an effect of your consequences, like in Bioshock.
Well, I liked that it did have an effect, it just didn't affect much. Like, you saw that something happened. Yeah. A couple of the things that went along with taking me out of the immersion of the game, getting into it, what?
No,
Do you know what I'm going to talk about?
Yeah.
Is the lockpicks?
Yeah.
I like the lockpicks for getting into different areas. I thought that was a clever thing. It made more sense than like collecting 5 silver keys to open a single chest in like Fable. It made sense because, you know, some locks are harder to open than others, so you'll break a certain number of lockpicks. Yeah. But I hated that any storyline door she could just open with a hairpin. That's what makes those locks different from the other.
It took me out of it because he kept saying something.
Every time almost every time. I don't understand. Oh, real quick, let's talk about the collector's edition.
Oh, yeah.
So we got whatever the middle one was. There was the normal game, there was this limited edition, and then there was one that was this with the giant statue. We elected not to waste a bunch of money on the statue of Songbird.
I do appreciate the art book. I think that's really cool.
I really love the cover of the art book.
Yeah, I think that's neat.
Hold it up to the...
I would have liked... I'm pretty picky about my special edition loot. My all-time favorite has to be the Halo Journal.
That was pretty cool.
That I love that. I read that every now and then, and I'm just like, ugh. I appreciated the art that came with it.
Yeah.
However, was it Bioshock 2?
Yeah, they came up with
Bioshock
big posters.
2, man, we have that, and there was the record. I love records. There's the artwork.
And I think it was the same price.
That was really good. So I feel like they could have tried a little more. Mostly,
I hate this.
We want to complain about this because on Bioshock's Facebook they said, "Oh no, there's a reason we included this handyman is because
so you can spend more fucking money.
So you can spend a gazillion dollars on their board game, but it already includes the handyman."
Yeah.
So
I didn't see any reason why you needed your own extra one.
There's no reason
didn't
for
really
this.
make sense.
Like
I mean, they came with a keychain of Murder of Crows, but I would have loved
an actual bottle.
Yeah, a life size of any of the Vigors.
Oh yeah.
I love Undertow, the water one.
And all the Vigors. I hope eventually we can buy the bottles. I'm glad we got it, but it could have been a lot better.
So I was looking at posters to put it in like this background area, and the plasmids in Bioshock 1, they're just different color bottles. They're all the same, and they're kind of ugly.
I'm glad they
yeah, they're so beautiful.
They're gorgeous. They're amazing.
So let's talk about the ending. Booker's Comstock, Elizabeth is Booker's daughter, etc.
I just want to say that way early on in the game, I guessed, and I said, "Hey, I wonder if that's his daughter." And I'm bummed about that. I'm bummed that I guessed it right. I didn't necessarily guess the situation right because I just thought like, oh, maybe the daughter got taken and he just thought she died but didn't know she's still alive and that's her. But I'm still bummed that I just kept thinking, oh yeah, that's probably his daughter. And oh look, it was his daughter, so that wasn't a big twist for me.
I thought it was a decent twist.
Okay. I'm always bummed when I guess a twist before.
But I mean, you only partially guessed it. There's so many circumstances behind it. But as it was being explained, I wasn't like, I was just like, yep, because I mean, like, I had guessed that he might be Comstock.
I guessed that along the way too.
I think I guessed it way earlier than you.
Oh no, I guessed it
because they start hinting at it way early though. In the audio stuff, they have Comstock talking about like what happens. Yeah, what happens to the sinner, blah blah blah.
When he said that, I was like, I wonder if that's hinting at something, but I don't know what.
Oh, okay.
No, it wasn't until they're at the lighthouses that I was like, he's probably Comstock. Yep, okay.
Okay.
My only beef with the ending is that when it's like officially revealed that he's Comstock, he says like, I'm Comstock or whatever, then it ends. It was like, there it is, done. Unlike with the original Bioshock, it's like, oh my goodness, I've been like brainwashed and I've been doing all these things, and you still go on. You still have to fight and you still do stuff. I felt like this just cut off way too short to the twist.
Well, it needed to. Because once he realized he was Comstock, he realized that he had to die. No, I thought it was good. The pinky thing I thought was really awesome. And I've seen a lot of people who I guess didn't pick up any of the audio stuff and do optional things, confused about why she has powers, like where Elizabeth's.
I didn't get it till you told me.
Okay, well, when you try to stop her from being stolen after Elizabeth is taking you back through time and shit, her pinky gets cut off because it gets caught in the closing tear. And the fact that she's split between dimensions apparently somehow makes you able to see tears and stuff between dimensions. It was in one of the audiobooks. The Lou Teslas talked about it because that's how they're able to go all over the places because Comstock paid Fink, I believe, to like tamper with one of their experiments. And then when it goes wrong, they get like scattered throughout the multiverse. How do you feel about the multiverse thing?
Mostly well, two thoughts. One, I loved when they went to Rapture. We early on we were like, oh, I hope they go to Rapture, and they did.
I thought they were just gonna do like a just a little like you,
show it through a tear,
there's a tear and you see something and it's like, oh, it's an Easter egg.
We were so happy when they went to Rapture because that's our favorite. But what I'm wondering is when Elizabeth's like, there's always a man in a city in a tower. Does that mean like
it's a lighthouse? But okay,
a lighthouse. That left me wondering, does that mean that there's a version of Booker that becomes Andrew Ryan?
Right. And I mean, Booker is able to use the bathyspheres, which at that point, because there was like, you could see there was a dead daddy with a little sister like crying over or something in a tunnel across the way. And the city was in disarray. I believe, after going through like Reddit and seeing people say stuff, there was signs that said like that the bathyspheres were offline or whatever. So only Andrew Ryan or a bloodline, like his clone. Technically, I don't know if it's even a bloodline. It might have to be his like exact DNA. I don't know. Only they can use those. So I don't know if, and it feels like they wouldn't be that sloppy with how much other shit went into making their storyline cohesive in such a complex storyline. I don't see them being that sloppy to let that kind of thing just randomly happen. Like, like we didn't think about that only Andrew Ryan could use the bathyspheres.
My concern is now that if they're going to make any other Bioshock games, it's just going to be, oh look, it's just another man in a lighthouse in a city. Like, it's just going to be like, well, now we have this, plot device. We can make 1 billion different Bioshocks, and we'll make one in space and underground and da-da-da-da. I guess I feel like doing the multiverse, it feels like it discredits Bioshock.
Right, that's kind of how I felt, too.
It's just like, oh, it was just an off
I see
thing.
If I have predictions or hopes as to what's going to come out of this, my hopes are that they're going to make more complex of a game after this. My theories are that because of the very ending scene where Booker kind of like wakes up and Anna is supposedly there, alive, that Elizabeth/Anna, whatever she's going to go by, is going to become... She's still going to be around and still going to have some kind of her abilities, because in the last scene where Booker is drowned, she doesn't disappear. The camera pans off of her before she can disappear. And I feel like they also wouldn't do that without it meaning something. I would love to see more complex games where they're going into different dimensions. I don't know what the goal could be to maybe stop terrible things happening in these wannabe utopias. So it just seems like they've made this and they could span between different cities or different worlds using this, and I don't know what else they would do with it that wouldn't just feel like, oh, it's another Bioshock game. So that's kind of how I come away with it. And I could also see the DLC taking place after the game, after Booker wakes up, because when he wakes up, I can't remember clearly, but I feel like his apartment still looks like that kind of dream.
It was like sepia kind of.
Yeah.
Okay, and then this is my other issue, is that you start to... at least I felt like possible romance. Especially when old Elizabeth is like in the audio files or whatever, and she's talking about, and I realized I loved him, or da-da-da-da-da, and I'm thinking like, oh, you know, they realize they love each other, and oh no.
What are you talking about?
When he's listening to audios of her talking, and she's talking about how long she waited and stuff, she talks about like how she came to realize she loved him and stuff, or whatever. And it was just like, oh no, wait, that's your dad.
I don't feel like she talked about him that way.
I mean, that's how it came across to me.
I didn't get that at all.
I like romance.
I think you're way too focused on romance.
Well, I really like romances. I like happy endings where people end up together and everything's great and happy.
I really do absolutely love this game.
Oh, it was great.
When I first beat it, I wasn't sure what to think about it. I'm afraid they might have jumped the shark with it, all the dimension stuff, and depending on how they handle it, assuming there is more, will determine whether or not I think what they're doing is shit, I guess.
I think a good point to quick make is that when we talk about movies and video games, we tend to focus more on the critiques, even when we absolutely love something. So, like, we didn't even talk about how amazing the rail stuff was, you know, things like that. So, we still do really love this game. We just happen to talk about things we didn't like more so. So we're much more vocal about the negatives. So
they're easier to be vocal about.
But we really did enjoy this game. Now, it's certainly not Bioshock original. That's always going to be up on the holy grail for us.
I think I was saying when I first beat it, I wasn't sure how to feel about it. After reflecting on it, I think I really do love almost everything about this game.
It was a good game.
And even the gripes that I have with it are very minor. I don't know. It's a good game. Go buy, go play.
And that's what we thought of Bioshock Infinite.
Let us know what you think down in the comments below.
And we'll talk to ya.
Bye.
Bye.